This conference will now be recorded.
Sorry, go ahead.
So the World Federation of the Past Pupils of Don Bosco is a public interreligious lay association, but it has no precise founder. Its beginning was spontaneous when on the name day of Don Bosco in 1870, a group of past students bought him cups of coffee. But Don Bosco realized the potential of the movement and had its first official gathering and conference in 1874. And the organizational structure was derived in 1884, and then the first statutes were drawn up in 1911 under the guidance of Blessed Philip Rinaldi. So again, the identity is very similar to the past pupils of the FMAs. They're anyone who attends an oratory, a school, any Salesian presence, and has received a formation for life. And they're committed to maintaining the education they had received, to continuing their service to young people in need, and to fostering friendship and solidarity among the members. There are about 100,000 past pupils, only half of whom are registered though. And because it can be any religion, there is a value system that is associated with the past pupils for those who are Catholic, but then there also is a list of values that is not limited to just one religion, so they can live it out in any religion or any culture that they find themselves in.
Thank you. Denise Dunn.
So I know that life every day gives you something new to learn, and I have learned more new things about the cooperators. One of the things that I read in the book that was fascinating to me was the dates involved with this. April 1876, Don Bosco requested of Pope Pius IX to have indulgences and privileges for the Salesian cooperators, a practical way of contributing to public morality and to the good of civil society. And the Pope read the documents, commented about the lack of women included in that, and said to Don Bosco that in general, women have played a leading role in the performance of good works, and that in the life of the church and the conversion of nations, and continued saying, they are overall more charitable and generous than men in sponsoring good works, and concluded that Don Bosco should include the women or he would deprive himself of the very best help. I was like, oh, I totally need to know more about Pope Pius IX now. Anyway, it was way out of his time. So Don Bosco took his advice, and by May of the same year, he had received approval of the Society of the Union of Union of Salesian Cooperators, and by that we were basically granted the status of our association and juridical role. So status, I should say. So our rule was written by St. John Bosco, and if you look in your PVA, for those who have a PVA, on page 116, it opens up with a letter to the reader. And basically, the rule that he gave us at that time was to give us an opportunity he had referred to our presence in the oratories of the Salesian Cooperators in the oratories at all times, but wanted the rule to be able to give us a basis to lead a good life, uniformity of spirit with the other Salesians, and that it would prevail then in our institutes, all the institutes. So that was prescient and wonderful. And it has changed. And the current one is the PVA, which was approved in 2013. And our rule of life guides us, not only describing who we are, but how we are to behave. And we work like, I always think of it as a bloom where you're planted spirituality. It could be changing your baby's diapers with the spirit of loving kindness. It could be teaching catechism. It could be running a home for foster children, which Pat Sobel does in Inverness. It could be it could be anything. It could be even the patient guidance people give me on the computer at night. Thank you, Elizabeth. It's like we serve each other with a sense of loving kindness wherever we are. We have a particular preference to poor, not just those who are practically poor, but who are spiritually poor, guiding them and bringing them along and showing them the face of God. I call us stealth Christians because we can go a lot of places that vowed religious cannot easily go. But our spirituality is that of John Bosco, loving kindness. We are to go everywhere we can and bring that kindness. And we are all, in order to become a cooperator, you have to be a fully initiated Catholic. You have to agree that you will live according to the rules of the church, that you will live according to the rules in the PVA, and we have organization, local, and it's echoed at a regional level, at a provincial level, and a regional level, and the world level, similar to the SDBs. So we have allegiance that we have to not pay to them, but honor them, because the work that gets done at each level is really important in forwarding the mission of the Salesians. And our promise is not, it's not a vow, but it is a promise. And most of us understand it in the sense of a vow, in that it is lifelong and that it is a very serious commitment that we make. We do not wear any garb except for our pins. And we don't dress scantily, because that would just be a bad thing to do anyway. But okay. I know, right? That's part of the living in Catholic rule. So basically, we are out there wherever you find people in need. That's where cooperators serve. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Brother Mintu. Come.
Okay. Good. I will answer the question Sister Dennis was to bring out for me during 2 minutes. I will answer based on the meaning of being the member of the Secular Institute of the Don Bosco Volunteers, the VDB. To be a Don Bosco volunteer, a member of the Secular Institute of Don Bosco Volunteers, you live a life entirely consecrated to God through the vows of chastity, poverty, and obedience, while remaining immersed in the secular world. Your mission is a renewed secure society from within through a silent, credible, and a coherent witness of faith, inspired by the Father Philip Ronaldi and the early founders in 1917. You follow the charism of Don Bosco in serving others and in animating the spirit of Salesian family. Thank you. 2 minutes.
Oh, thank you. Wow. The VDB are consecrated lay women living on their own in society. And in society, they're not supposed to be known as being consecrated. But within the Salesian family, it's okay if we know who they are and that they're VDB, the Volunteers of Don Bosco. And Brother John.
Howdy, I'm Brother John. I'm in my second year of post-novitiate here in the House of Formation. Let's see, I was researching the Voluntari con Don Bosco, the Volunteers with Don Bosco, as not to be confused with the Don Bosco Volunteers. So in the late 1980s, there were multiple men from Italy, Malta, Paraguay, and Venezuela, and they were all experiencing this deep desire to consecrate their lives to God in a special way. And they were accompanied by Salesian priests at the time. So they brought this forward to the rector major of the time, Egidio Vigano, who told them that they should go forward and try to found a Salesian secular institute where they could consecrate themselves and the Salesian family in this particular society for their lives, right? They in 1998 they actually were erected and their constitutions were approved with Father Juan Vecchi. So how did the Volunteers with Don Bosco live? Well, it mentions here in the book about their secularity, consecration, and Salesianity. So their secularity is the idea is they're able to mix with everybody and just a secular job. They're not working typically in the church, but they may be an accountant, engineer, nurse, and this is Mel Institute. But they would be spreading the light of Christ in their workplaces in whatever they dedicate themselves, such as to inspire others and bring joy and optimism in a world that often is plagued by pessimism and negativity. So it says here in 2018 they had 94 volunteers with Don Bosco. They have a particularly marked servant of God, Antonino Baglieri from Italy. He is inspirational to them because, well, first of all, he was a volunteer with Don Bosco, but at the age of 17, he fell from a ladder when he was doing some scaffolding and painting, and he was paralyzed for the rest of his life. And he spent about 10 years without being able to move, and he was really pessimistic, and he didn't know how to just be joyful and come back to his faith and see that God loved him and God was with him throughout this whole experience. But there was a charismatic group of renewal who came and prayed over him, and after that experience, he experienced the Holy Spirit in his life in a new way, where he was decided to give his life back to Christ, and he experienced the cross in such a way that he wanted to offer his life and his paralysis to God. Well, his life was very inspirational. He couldn't move any limbs of his body, but he could write and paint with his using his mouth, and he would spend time with children, encouraging them, giving thoughtful words, and whisper in the ears, just as Don Bosco talks about. So it's a organization that's growing, and it is in the Salesian family. And any questions? Yeah.
Do they take vows?
Yes,
They're consecrated. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
they do. Yes, they're the counterpart to the women, the Don Bosco volunteers. The last I knew, they were not yet accepted as a secular institute in the church. They were an association of lay faithful, but they've been petitioning to become a secular institute like the women are. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Wunderbar.
you. Okay, Sister Crescentia.
yes.
Here she comes. Welcome.
Okay, hello. So I have the Association of Mary Help of Christians, better known as ADMA. So they were founded, it's linked to the building of the Basilica of Mary Help of Christians in Turin, and it was started to promote devotion to the Blessed Sacrament and to Mary Help of Christians. And then in 1870, Pope Pius IX raised the status to Archconfraternity. So they've had international congresses of Mary Help of Christians since 1988 for every 4 years. And there's one in particular in 2015 that they highlighted where the rector major gave them recommendations. And some of these included translating the preventive system to adapt to the situations of the family, because the family is very important. And then ensuring that youth ministry is open to family ministry and promoting exchange and co-responsibility between the religious and secular ways of life. So in their identity, they have specific commitments, which include living out your personal Christian life, the sacraments, living and spreading devotion to Mary Help of Christians, of course, and prayer. And it's good to hear consistencies between the groups of prayer and promotion of vocations, not only within this group, but within the entire Salesian family. And then, of course, spirituality of everyday life. So present situation, there's a renewed special attention to the family. And there are some common paths that are recommended with monthly commemorations on the 24th, for example, monthly retreats, annual spiritual exercises, family encounters, pilgrimages, and specific itineraries, so plans for newlyweds and engaged couples. So very much on the family, oriented towards the family. And this is the largest group in the Salesian family, with about 100,000 members in 800 groups in over 50 countries. So yeah, that's ADMA.
Thank you. All right, Sister Gloria, you're up. Yay.
Okay, I had Maria Troncati. So
Sister starts the first of the saints, blesseds, etc.
Yes, so she was born February 16, 1883. She made professions in 1908. During World War II, she took some health courses and worked as a nurse with the Red Cross in the military hospital, which paid off in her missionary work. Following a violent storm, she promised Our Lady that she would go right away to the missions. In 1922, Mother Catherine de Guerro sent her to Ecuador. Sister Maria, two others, and a Salesian bishop went to the Amazon jungle. So it was there where she won the respect of the tribe by saving the daughter of the chief, who was wounded by a bullet. From there, she began the challenging work of evangelization, which came with many risks. She was a doctor of the body and the spirit. She was motherly, patient, listened and fostered communion between the people, and she taught forgiveness. And the crucifix is what gave her strength and courage to do her work, and in every activity she felt her motherly presence. And she died on August 25th, 1969 in an aircraft crash at the age of 86.
Thank you. And she is due to be canonized this year, 2025. Thank you. All right, now we'll go to our home viewers. I'm going to call you as you are in order on the call here, as I'm seeing you. So if you'll please tell us who you are, and then who the saint, blessed, servant of God, venerable is that you're going to speak to us about. And we are over time, but we want to hear this, but if you can, limit it to like a minute each, minute and a half. Louise, you're up first. Then it'll be Elizabeth, so you can prepare yourself. You have to unmute yourself, Louise.
Thank you, sister.
Thank you.
I'm going to talk about Luigi Variara, and his liturgical celebration is coming up on January the 15th. Luigi was declared venerable in February the 4th, 1993, and he was beatified on the 14th of April, 2002. Luigi Viara was born in Viargi in the province of Asti on January the 15th, 1875, of a deeply Christian family. His father Pietro had heard Don Bosco speak in 1856 when he had arrived in the village to preach a mission. He decided to take Luigi to Valdocco to continue his studies. The saint would die 4 months later, Don Bosco, that is, but the fact that young Luigi had got to know him was enough to mark him for life. When he finished high school, he asked to become a Salesian. He entered the novitiate on the 17th of August, 1891. Luigi studied philosophy at Valsalici, where he met Father Andrew Bertrami. Well, when Father Andrew Bertrami, he was very impressed with Luigi, and he all of a sudden said, "This guy, he's mine." And in 1894, Father Unia, the famous missionary of the lepers at Agua de Dios, was in Valsace to choose a cleric to look after the young lepers. Among the 188 companions who had the same aspirations, he fixed his gaze on Luigi. Luigi arrived in Agua de Dios on the 6th of August, 1894. The mission had 2,000 inhabitants, of whom 800 were lepers. As soon as he arrived, he became the soul of all the patients, particularly children. He organized a band because he loved music, animating the sick with an unexpected festive atmosphere. In 1895, Father Unia died and Luigi was left alone with Father Quippa. In 1898, he was ordained a priest. He soon turned out to be an excellent spiritual director. In 1905, the construction of the Asilo Don Unia concluded, a place capable of hosting up to 150 orphans and lepers, and guaranteeing them education of trade and future insertion into society. In Agua de Dios, the Sisters of Providence had started the Association of the Daughters of Mary, a group of 200 girls. He was their confessor. He identified some calls to religious life in the group. The bold project was born, a unique thing in the church, of an institute that would allow the acceptance of leprosy patients. Inspired by the spirituality of Father Beltrami, He developed Salesian victimal charism and founded the Congregation of the Daughters of the Sacred Heart of Jesus and Mary, which today numbers 600 religious. Due to this foundation, he had much to suffer from the misunderstanding of the people and some superiors, who thought it best to remove him from Agua de Dios several times. Like Don Bosco, he was an exemplary in obedience. Faced with slander, he did not say a word. He was credible because he was obedient. Father Ruel from Turin encouraged him. He died away from his sick loved ones as obedience had wanted. Now he rests in Agua de Dios in the chapel of his daughters. Declared venerable April the 2nd, 1993, beatified April the 14th, 2002 by St. John Paul, and I am sure soon he'll be a saint.
Okay, thank
This
you,
is
Luigi.
Luigi Vieria.
Thank you. Okay, Elizabeth, you're up.
All right. I chose my favorite, Blessed Alexandrina de Costa. She grew up in a very faith-based home. She went through, got her first communion, her confirmation. When she was 14, she was working with her sister and another girl in a sewing place, and 3 men came to attack them. And in order to protect her purity, she leaped out the window and was severely paralyzed. And although severely paralyzed, she would continue to drag herself to make it to Mass, to spend time to be there, because she knew how important it was to be with Jesus, until the time where she was completely paralyzed and bedridden and had to stay in her bed. She identified with Jesus in the tabernacle and wanted to be that light that showed that tabernacle light that said, Jesus is here, Jesus is with us. And so she saw her sufferings and pain as a way of cooperating with God and offering that up for her faith and for others. When she had a spiritual director who was a Salesian, she became a cooperator, and she wanted her cooperator certificate in sight so she could always remember to not only cooperate with the will of God, but to cooperate with the pain and sufferings that she had. And she used those to offer them up for especially the young and the poor, and for the people in the town around her. She would talk with them and guide them and counsel the families until the day that she passed away, and she is currently one of our blesseds.
Beautiful. Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, Marshall and Carla are new on the call, so we're going to go to Jim Desmond because Jim was here this morning and got the assignment. Carla, did you get an assignment too? I don't think so, right?
Sister, believe it or not, without communicating, I choose Luigi Variaga too.
Okay.
So it was really a Canadian. But
All
I would
right.
like to add what she mentioned. Yes, I remember one time I found a book, I read it, and I was surprised because I didn't know anything about Luigi Variaga. And he really impressed upon me the depth of his vocation first, and the missionary zeal that from Italy he went down with the lepers in Agua de Dios, and his spirit of obedience, resilience, perseverance, and endurance, even in the misunderstanding. That was one of the things that really caught me. He had, and we are talking about the Salesian family, and his closest family was against that. To give an opportunity to the leper girl to become religious. And he gave that opportunity. He was sent away and he accepted. So, and when she mentioned Luigi Variaga, I said, oh my goodness, I choose it too. So that is it. My my 5
Thank
cents
you.
sharing. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Don.
She's from
All right, Jim.
Okay, I took Luigi or Aloysius Versilia, who was a Salesian bishop and martyr, and he was a martyr in China. He started the Salesian mission in China and was actually asked by the bishop there at the time to take over a new area. And Don Bosco sent him another 12 priests over. They were working. The country started, it was in the late 1920s. The country started to get really weird. And it's when Chiang Kai-shek first took over, and then that didn't work out real well. And they were on their way to another part of the mission, and they had to take a boat up a river. And they had some other people with them, including several young girls. And they were accosted by some pirates who pulled them ashore and started making demands of money of them, and they didn't have any money. So they basically tried to put, well, they did. They put to fire himself and I can't think of the other guy's name.
Callistus Caravaggio.
Yeah, Carvalho. And they didn't succeed at first burning them, so they did come. The two priests fainted or passed out from the fumes or whatever, and in the meantime, they took the girls up the mountain and did their thing with them. And a couple of days later, they took the two priests out and shot them. And it was evidently somehow they got word out. I think the boatsman of that boat got word out to the town they were going to about what happened. And the authorities sent people to take care of it. And the pirates were arrested, blah, blah, blah. And Saint Callisto and Saint Luigi were made saints by virtue of their heroism and standing up for the faith. And he did a great deal of really moving the Catholic faith in China with hardly any people or resources. I mean, the church was about 1,500 when he got there, and he doubled the size of it. 1,500 total in the country of China. So he doubled the size of it.
Wow. Thanks, Jim. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay, Margarita. Is Margarita able, Sister Teresa?
No, she's not. She's not able to.
Okay. All right. Do you have somebody for us?
Yes, I do. I have
Okay.
Blessed Magdalena Romano, who is a Salesian sister. She lived about 60 years. She was really 10 years younger than Mother Mazzarello. She lived in the city in Chieri where Don Bosco studied. You know, the story how Don Bosco developed all his skills and everything else was in Chieri. Anyway, she was from the young age. She came from a well-to-do family until her father wanted to marry her her mother, who happened to be a housewife, so he was disinherited. From there, they had difficult life because the father died early, so the mother really struggled. But an uncle who was a priest helped them out. She was able finally to go. When she was young, she had to. When the situation was so bad, she had to work with her mom as a seamstress. But then after that, she was able, her with the help of the cousin that came in to help the family, she was able to study. And by the age of 15, she became a teacher. She was an excellent educator. She had control of the class. She loved the kids.
the parish priest treasured her for her ability. He started a little school and he entrusted her with it as young as she was. Anyway, by the age of 30, she was able. She had already a great her experience as a teacher, so she was able to tell her mother she was to buy something for her mom, a house, and then she told her mother and the priest that she was going to leave and she wanted to be a religious, but she didn't know where to go. But finally, she went to Turin, met Don Bosco. Don Bosco sent him to Cagliero, and Cagliero sent him, no, 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 sister, you are. She wanted to be a cloister, and she goes, no, 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 because your books will just fall off because you're so active. So anyway, she became a Salesian sister. Um, in 1978, which means that she lived in Mornese 1 year with Mother Mazzarello, and in Nisa another year. By 80, she was already perpetual, so they only took 2 years of being a sister and then became a perpetual. And Mother Mazzarello sent her down to Sicily. In Sicily, she literally, again, was by herself, became everything there with a few sisters. And by the time she again the bishops admire her for her the way she was able to do everything that to tell you just a little bit. Okay, she had the charism of a founder in opening 19 houses, I mean convents, 12 oratories, 6 schools, 5 kindergarten, 11 workshops, 5 hostels, 3 Sunday schools. And then by the time she passed away by the age of 60, she literally, they had already 142 sisters in Sicily, because this was the island. If you know the shoe size, and the Sicily would be like the soccer ball at the bottom of Italy. Anyway, there she was 142 sisters, 29 novices, and 9 postulants by the time she died. Okay, so a great teacher, and she was just amazed at how she really spread the Don Bosco spirit there. That's it.
Thank you, Sister Teresa. Okay, Mary Sheldon, you have somebody for us? Teresa Graglia is next after Mary. And then
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you, Teresa.
Okay, so how do you like this? I also chose Madeline Moreno. The one thing I'm going to add is, even in her youth, before her formation, she looked after the poor. And there's a story in here about how she went to the hovel of a beggar who was ill, even though it might mean that she would be sick, to prepare him for his death. So she was working with the poor from a very early age.
Good, thank you.
Okay, Mary, we got you. Your microphone is on, but we don't hear you. I think you get close, really close. Get really close and talk loudly. We might hear you.
No.
Turn your sound up.
No.
Your microphone must be low.
How can you raise a microphone?
Turn the volume up.
Can you add volume and that'll work? No.
No.
All right. If you have anything, I don't know if you have anything written down, you can send it to us
in the chat box.
Yeah, or via email. Okay, Dennis and Jeannie. Sorry, Mary.
Okay. I'm probably not pronouncing his name right, but Antelio Giovanni. And he was born in Spain in 1913, and he died in December 72. He was a Salesian cooperator. When he was a youth, he went to Salesian schools. But when you read his biography, he was a husband, father, teacher, actor, but he was very, everybody said he was very positive. He appreciated what he had. He prayed each day. He was cheerful. And he was very cheerful with the youth and anybody he became in contact with. And one thing, he brought God to people no matter where he was. And I was just amazed when I read he was just a regular guy, but he did everything good. And so, that's what attracted me to him, or when I read about him. He was a very positive guy, but he brought the Salesian spirit to everybody he met. And that's the guy.
Thank you. Jeannie.
Very beautiful. The only thing I would add, because of course Elizabeth and Sister Teresa took my people, Mother Morano, the only thing I would add is that she had a devotion to our Blessed Mother and to Saint Joseph. And I am blessed to live with a man who is like Saint Joseph. And to Elizabeth, the only thing I would add to Alexander da Costa is she's one of us, and that she lived only on the Eucharist for 13 years. So that is amazing how blessed we are as cooperators to have such a role model. Other than that, you stole all my saints.
Thanks, Jeannie. Okay, Rita.
I had looked up, and I'm not sure again how to say the name, Luigi Orione.
Say it again. Orione. Oh, Orione, yes.
Okay, and he was canonized recently in 2004, and he really was named after Saint Gonzaga, but he was always called Luigi. And he was a pupil at the Valdaco tour in Turin. And when he was there, Don Bosco had told him we shall always be friends. And he established some congregations of his own, the Sons of Divine Providence, and a congregation of the Little Missionary Sisters of Charity. And he was working always with the people who were in the earthquake and had lost property and were in need of homes. And he had that's what he was doing during that time. And his charisma was always for love for the poor, seeing the face of Jesus in them, and serving them with holy joy. And he told his followers that we needed to keep our faith. Faith makes everything. Faith makes powerful against every battle, and has become the greatest and most divine comfort of human life. So our faith really, we need our faith to get us through whatever problems we have. And he was always there helping the poor.
Great. Thank you, Rita. And last but not least, Diana. Diana, you need to unmute yourself. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. The most important thing I think that we take away from this is this Salesian family spirituality is open to everybody, just regular Joes, as we heard, and those who are mystics and live solely on the Eucharist and nothing else, no other food but the Blessed Sacrament for 13 years. So we really run the gamut from the young to the not so young. And this is the whole goal of why we're here and why we do what we do. Without this, there would be no reason to be Salesian. And I think Don Bosco would be the first, and he actually was the first to say that if you're here to save your soul and to help save the souls of others.